What happens when one of music's most legendary icons sits down with daytime television's most notorious panel and everything goes catastrophically wrong? Decades of pent-up Hollywood frustrations explode in real time on national television. This is the story of how a routine promotional appearance turned into the most explosive confrontation in The View's history. The tension was palpable from the moment Cher walked onto the set. What should have been a light-hearted conversation about her new memoir quickly turned into something far more hostile. The veteran performer, known for decades of speaking truth to power, had no idea she was walking into one of the most heated clashes of her career. It began innocently enough. Cher settled into the guest chair, her trademark confidence radiating as the cameras rolled. The hosts appeared friendly at first, their practiced smiles and rehearsed banter setting the stage. Joy Bagler opened with what sounded like a softball question about Cher's career, but the tone carried an edge. "So Cher, you've been in this business for over 5 decades, Joy began. You've seen a lot of changes in Hollywood. Tell us how you've managed to stay relevant all these years." The word relevant hung in the air like a challenge. Cher's eyes narrowed, recognizing the subtle dig. She leaned back, her experience in handling hostile interviews kicking in. "Well, Joy, I think staying authentic has been key," Cher replied, her voice steady but edged. "I've never needed to manufacture drama or controversy for attention. My work speaks for itself." The cameras caught the hosts exchanging quick glances. Whoopi Goldberg shifted uncomfortably. Sarah Haynes forced a smile. Sonny Hostin leaned forward and Alyssa Farah Griffin's jaw tightened. Anna Navarro filling in as the fifth host decided to escalate. "That's interesting, Cher, because some people might say your recent social media activity has been controversial. You've been quite vocal about certain political figures." The air in the studio seemed to chill. Cher straightened in her chair. Those who knew her recognized the warning signs. "I've always used my platform to speak up for what I believe in," Cher answered firmly. "If that makes people uncomfortable, that's their problem, not mine." Joy leaned forward, her politeness slipping. "But don't you think celebrities should stick to entertaining and leave politics to the politicians?" The condescension was obvious. Cher felt the familiar fire rising. She had heard the argument countless times, usually from people who had never risked their careers or faced threats for speaking out. "That's rich coming from a show built on political commentary," Cher shot back. "I guess it's only acceptable when the viewpoints match yours." Whoopi tried to interject, her voice patronizing. "Now, Cher, we're just trying to have a conversation here. Are we?" Cher challenged. "Because it feels more like an interrogation designed to make me look bad." The coordinated attack was clear. Sarah Haynes jumped in with what she thought was the knockout blow. "Well, speaking of looking bad, there have been some rumors about your personal life lately. Care to address those?" The studio fell silent. Cher's eyes flashed with hurt and fury. She had come to promote her book and share her story, only to be ambushed. "Excuse me." Cher's voice was dangerously calm. "What exactly are you implying?" Sunani Halston pressed further. "We're just saying that for someone who preaches authenticity, there seem to be questions about your private relationships and business dealings." The accusation lingered like poison. Cher felt decades of media manipulation and personal scrutiny crystallize into rage. "You want to talk about authenticity?" Cher's voice rose, her temper unleashed. "Let's talk about a B show that pretends to support women while tearing them down on national television." The host struggled to maintain composure, but cracks appeared. Navarro's face reamed, Joy's mouth tightened, and Whoopi's defense sounded weak. "We're not tearing anyone down," Whoopi protested. "We're asking legitimate questions." "Legitimate questions?" Cher laughed bitterly. "You call spreading unsubstantiated rumors and questioning my integrity legitimate journalism? This is exactly the kind of toxic behavior that's destroying meaningful discourse in this country." The studio atmosphere had shifted from uncomfortable to openly hostile. Camera operators adjusted their positions to capture every moment of the unfolding drama while producers in the control room realized they were witnessing television history in the making. Joy, perhaps feeling the need to reassert control, made a critical misstep. "Look, Cher, we understand you're passionate about your beliefs, but maybe it's time to accept that your moment has passed." The words hit Cher like a physical blow. After decades of being told she was too old, too outspoken, too much, she had reached her breaking point. The mask of professionalism slipped completely, revealing the fighter beneath. "My moment has passed." Cher's voice trembled with fury. I've been breaking barriers and fighting battles while you were still figuring out how to read a teleprompter without sounding like robots. The hosts realized they had pushed too far. But it was too late. The damage was done and Cher was only getting started. The confrontation that had been simmering was about to erupt, and the cameras were capturing every second. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the mechanical whir of cameras adjusting to capture the raw emotion on Cher's face. Her hands trembled with rage, her makeup doing nothing to hide the fire in her eyes. The hosts sat frozen, suddenly aware they had cornered a legend who had survived an industry that devoured people alive. Sarah Haynes, perhaps thinking she could defuse the situation, made the mistake of trying to patronize her. Cher, I think we're all getting a little heated here. Maybe we should take a breath. Don't you dare tell me to take a breath. Cher cut her off, her voice like ice. You want to sit there and question my relevance, my integrity? Let me tell you about relevance, sweetheart. I was selling out arenas before you were even born, and I'll be doing it long after this pathetic excuse for journalism is forgotten. Anna Navarro's face contorted with indignation. She leaned forward, her tone dripping with condescension. There's no need to get personal, Cher. We're professionals here. Professionals? Cher's laugh was sharp and bitter. You call this professional ambushing a guest with manufactured controversies and thinly veiled insults? You wouldn't know professionalism if it bit your fake personalities. The crude remark sent shockwaves through the studio. The View had seen heated exchanges before, but nothing like this. Whoopi tried to regain control, her tone stern and authoritative. Okay, that's enough. We need to keep this civil. Civil? Cher's eyes blazed. Where was the civility when you were spreading rumors about my personal life? Where was the civility when you questioned my business dealings without evidence? You want to play dirty, but you can't handle it when someone fights back. Joy, flushed with anger and embarrassment, doubled down. Maybe this is exactly why people are questioning your stability. This kind of outburst doesn't exactly scream professional icon. The words landed like a slap. Cher's mouth fell open in disbelief before hardening into something dangerous. She stood towering over the panel, her presence filling the studio with electric tension. My stability. Her voice was dangerously quiet. Now you want to question my stability. I've survived blacklisting, death threats, industry sexism, and decades of people trying to silence me. And you think your little mean girls club is going to break me? Sunani Hen, emboldened by the apparent solidarity of her co-hosts, made the most catastrophic mistake of all. Well, given your history of dramatic relationships and public meltdowns, it's not exactly unreasonable. Stop right there. Cher's voice cracked through the studio like a whip. Don't you dare bring my relationships into this. Don't you dare pretend my personal life is fair game for your ratings grab. The mask was gone. The legendary performer who had held her composure for 5 decades was done playing nice. Her voice rose to a level that made everyone in the studio flinch. You want to know what's unreasonable? What's unreasonable is a group of women who claim to champion female empowerment spending their time tearing down other women for sport. What's unreasonable is pretending this is journalism when it's nothing but glorified gossip disguised as news. Anna tried once more to salvage the situation, but her attempt only fueled the fire. Cher, we understand you're upset, but attacking us personally isn't going to attacking me personally. Cher's eyes were wild now, her voice at a crescendo that reverberated through the studio. You just spent the last 10 minutes attacking everything about me personally. And now you want to play the victim. The hypocrisy is staggering. The hosts began to panic. This had gone far beyond anything they had planned, and they could see their careers flashing before their eyes. Joy made a desperate attempt to redirect. Look, we're sorry if you feel we were unfair, but if I feel you were unfair, Cher's voice cracked with rage. There's no if about it. You ambushed me with lies and innuendo, questioned my character without evidence, and now you're gaslighting me by pretending it's all in my head. Whoopi, realizing the situation was spiraling out of control, tried to assert authority. Cher, I'm going to have to ask you to lower your voice. You're going to ask me? Cher's laugh was harsh and bitter. You're going to ask me to lower my voice after you raised yours to attack me, after you all ganged up on me like vultures? The audacity is breathtaking. Sarah Haynes, tears forming in her eyes from the stress, tried one last time. We never meant for this to get so heated. We were just trying to have a conversation. A conversation? Cher's voice was so loud the sound engineers scrambled to adjust equipment. This wasn't a conversation. This was a coordinated attack designed to humiliate me on national television. And you know the saddest part, you probably thought, I'd just sit here and take it like some meek little victim. The confrontation had reached a fever pitch. Cher stood magnificent in her fury, facing down 5 women who had clearly underestimated her. The air crackled with tension so thick it could be cut with a knife. Ana Navarro, realizing retreat was impossible, made one last stand. Well, if you can't handle tough questions, maybe you shouldn't be doing interviews. The words had barely left her mouth before Cher erupted with fury greater than anything before. The legendary icon had reached her breaking point. Can't handle tough questions. Cher's voice erupted like a volcano, shaking the foundations of the studio. Tough questions. You call spreading lies and manufacturing drama tough questions? You wouldn't know a tough question if it slapped you across your Botoxed faces. The hosts recoiled as if struck. The raw power of Cher's voice, honed by decades of commanding massive audiences, filled every corner of the studio. Camera operators stepped back instinctively while producers in the control room sat in stunned silence, realizing history was unfolding before their eyes. Joy Behar, her face crimson with anger and humiliation, made the fatal mistake of trying to match Cher's intensity. Don't you dare talk to us like that. We've been doing this show for years. Years. Cher's laugh was terrifying in its intensity. I've been in this business longer than all of you combined. I was breaking barriers and changing the world while you were still learning how to read cards. And you think your little daytime talk show gives you the right to tear me down? Whoopi stood from her chair, perhaps thinking her presence would help. It was a catastrophic miscalculation. Cher turned on her with the full force of her legendary presence. Sit your ass back down, Whoopi. You, of all people, should know better. You're supposed to be the voice of reason on this show, but instead you're just another cog in their mean girl machine. The studio was in chaos. Security personnel shifted nervously at the edges of the set, unsure if they should intervene. The hosts looked like deer in headlights, their carefully crafted personas crumbling under Cher's assault. Sunny Halston, tears streaming down her face, made one last desperate attempt. Cher, please, we can work this out. We don't have to work this out. Cher's voice reached a pitch that threatened to blow out the sound equipment. There's nothing to work out. You showed me exactly who you are the moment I walked through that door. You're nothing but vultures feeding on other people's pain for your pathetic ratings. Sarah Haynes was openly sobbing now, the stress overwhelming her. Ana Navarro sat frozen, pale with shock at what she had helped unleash. The co-host, who had delivered the final comment that triggered Cher's explosion, looked like she wanted to vanish into the floor. You want to know what tough questions look like? Cher continued, her voice carrying the weight of decades of rage. Here's a tough question. How do you sleep at night knowing you make your living destroying other women? Here's another. What kind of example are you setting for young girls watching this show? Joy tried again to interrupt, but Cher silenced her with a look that could have melted steel. I'm not finished. The words echoed through the studio like gunshots. You think because you sit behind that desk with your fake smiles and coordinated attacks that you're untouchable? You think you can ambush me and I'll just sit here and take it like some washed up has-been? Cher moved closer to the desk, her presence commanding the space. The hosts shrank back as if facing a force of nature. Let me tell you something about washed up has-been. I've sold over 100 million records worldwide. I've won every major award in entertainment. I've used my platform to fight for civil rights, LGBTQ+ rights, and social justice when it was dangerous to do so. What have you done besides tear down women? Better than you. The silence that followed was deafening. Even the crew had stopped moving. Transfixed by the raw power of Cher's words, the legendary performer stood magnificent in her fury, stripping away every pretense and exposing the truth beneath the view's polished surface. Whoopi made one last attempt to regain control. Cher, I think we should. You don't get to think anything. Cher cut in. Her voice deadly quiet, more terrifying than when she shouted. You've done enough thinking for one day. And look where it got us. She turned to the cameras, addressing the audience directly. To everyone watching at home, this is what happens when fake journalism meets real integrity. This is what happens when mediocrity tries to tear down excellence. And this, she gestured toward the cowering hosts, is what cowardice looks like when it's finally called out. The camera caught every nuance of her expression as she delivered what would become one of television's most quoted moments. I came here today to talk about my book, to share my story with people who might find inspiration in it. Instead, I walked into an ambush orchestrated by women who've forgotten what it means to lift each other up instead of tearing each other down. Cher gathered her belongings, her movements deliberate and dignified despite the chaos. You know the difference between me and all of you. She paused, looking each host in the eye. I've never had to destroy another woman to feel good about myself. I've never had to spread lies and rumors to stay relevant. And I've never had to hide behind a desk and gang up on someone to feel powerful. Ana Navarro, perhaps realizing this was the last chance to salvage something, pleaded, Cher, wait. Wait for what? Cher's voice cut through like a blade. Pretend this didn't happen. Pretend you didn't just reveal your true characters on national television. The damage is done. You've shown the world exactly who you are. She stood at the edge of the set, her silhouette framed by the lights, every inch the icon she was. I've survived 5 decades in this business by being authentic, by standing up for what I believe, and by never letting bullies silence me. You tried to break me today, but all you did was remind me why I've never backed down from a fight. With that, Cher turned and walked toward the exit, head held high, dignity intact. The hosts sat in stunned silence, their orchestrated ambush having backfired spectacularly. At the door, Cher turned back one last time. Good luck explaining this to your viewers. Good luck explaining how you turned what should have been a celebration of a woman's career into a character assassination. And good luck living with yourselves, knowing the world just watched you reveal who you really are. The door closed with a decisive click, leaving the hosts in the wreckage of their own show. The cameras kept rolling, capturing their shocked faces and the toxic atmosphere they had created. What began as a routine celebrity interview had become a masterclass in how legends are made and reputations destroyed. Cher had walked into their trap and turned it into their nightmare, leaving the view to face the consequences while she emerged victorious, her integrity and legendary status stronger than ever.